I didn't even kiss anyone on the first date. And I don't know why I couldn't resist kissing Elvis Presley on the first date, but I just could not resist.
And his mother and father fished, Elvis fished, all his friends fished, June fished, everybody fished. I didn't fish, I was busy taking film, taking footage with my little 8mm camera.
It was happening so fast and so furious and so quick. Everything it was Ed Sullivan, it was Steve Allen, it was Hollywood, it was New York. It was something that I would never trade. I wouldn't trade it for $1 million.
The history of rock and roll is filled with provocative stories and interesting personalities. While hundreds of individuals can take credit for in some way shaping that history, no one can lay claim to having a greater impact on rock than the king, Elvis Presley. From his humble beginnings in Tupelo, Mississippi, to his rise within the grandeur of Graceland, Elvis's accomplishments as a singer, a performer, and a movie star have never been equaled. The public side of Elvis Aaron Presley is one comprised primarily of glitz and glamour. However, the real Elvis was actually quite different. A shy country gentleman is how he's described by those who knew him, especially in the early years of his career. It is those years, specifically 1956, that we will journey to today as we discover the truth of Elvis's lost love.
Elvis's musical career started in school when he bucked the image of a regular guy with his own style. George Klein, longtime friend and member of Elvis's Memphis Mafia, remembers what Elvis was like in his teenage years. The summer of 1955 found Elvis on the road, promoting his name and first record by touring the South. He was living in cheap motels and performing just about anywhere he could draw a crowd when he first laid eyes on June Juanico, an enchanting beauty he would never forget. June had come with a friend to see Elvis, a person she knew nothing about, perform at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi.
I met Elvis the first time by accident. A friend of mine had seen Elvis the night before. I didn't even know who Elvis Presley was. And she called me and he was appearing at the Airmen's Club at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi. So she called. I already had a date. She said, I'll help cancel your date. You know, make a long story short, we went to the Airmen's Club, and he was just the best-looking thing I had ever seen in my life. He really was.
Little did she know that her chance meeting with the young sensation that night would transpire into something much bigger, with a vacation the next summer. June remembers the first time she visited Memphis with her friends.
So as soon as we got to Memphis, we went to down in the area where Elvis used to buy his clothes at Lansky Brothers, I think is the name of the store. And Marie asked one of the salesmen there what was Elvis's address. And he gave her directions, and he said, I'm sure Elvis wouldn't mind you going by to see his house because he's not in town. So we drove over to Audubon Drive, parked out in the front. There was no fence at the time, and there was heavy-duty construction equipment parked in the backyard. And we figured, you know, with the backhoe and all that stuff, we figured he was having a pool put in. And we're still sitting in Marie's car. There's 5 of us girls that went. And we're debating on what kind of swimming pool he's going to have put in, guitar-shaped, whatever, you know. So I said, well, I'm getting out. I'm going to go take a look. So I got out, the rest of the girls followed, and we're up just, you know, bigger than life, trespassing on Elvis's property, and the pink Cadillac drives in the driveway. So, and it was Elvis and his mother and father. So I was the only one on the fence. The other girls were standing back a little bit, and I was embarrassed, really, to be caught trespassing or whatever. And I just looked around, made eye contact with him just for a second, And he walks straight up to the fence and picks me up by the waist and puts me on the ground. He said, "What are you doing here, June?" And I said, "I'm on vacation with the girls, you know." And we talked probably 15 or 20 minutes. He wanted to know where we were going and did we have any plans. And we told him that we were going to see a movie that night. And, you know, we all left. And then that night, we were sitting in the movie theater. And my friend had a hot pink Ford Fairlane car. You couldn't miss it. Hot pink, not just pink, hot pink. And he found the hot pink car parked at the theater and came on in and sat next to me and held my hand throughout the movie and then invited us all to go back to his house. I rode with him in his big black limousine that he uses for the band. And I mean, it was room enough for all of us, but we took the car just, you know, they followed behind. And so we visited with him that night. And then the following morning, he picked me up and we went motorcycle riding. After 7 days of being in Memphis, we drove back to Biloxi, and he said that he wanted to, he was coming down, he had a vacation coming up, and he would be down in Biloxi. Beep, beep, beep.
Tired of the constant barrage of fans outside his hotel, Elvis craved some privacy. June and her friends had just the solution.
Well, when I first met him, he had to leave the motel down here in Biloxi because of the fact that people found out he was there, and they were kept coming by and banging on his door and everything. So I said, "Elvis, I got a couple of houses, and I said, I can let you have one of them. If you and your friends want to stay there, you can come to the house and stay." I said, "It's already furnished and all. It's a small house, but it's big enough to accommodate you." And he said, "I think that would be nice." So I took him to the house, and I took him in my car so people wouldn't recognize that Cadillac of his. But anyway, some of the neighbors spotted it and spotted the deal, and the first thing you know, the crowd was all around the house, aggravating him. "Come on out, Elvis, and give us your signature. Come on out and sing for us." And so he was trying to get a little rest and take a nap, and he just couldn't. So he said, "Eddie," says, "I guess I'm going to have to go somewhere else." So we called up Gulf Hills and got him a room, got him a house out there at Gulf Hills. And his mother was looking after Elvis like he was a young child, and she kept bringing him peanut butter and jelly sandwiches while he was sitting here where I am fishing. And she was handing it to him and feeding him while he was fishing, and that's a fact. It's on the film. All that's on the film.
We caught lots of sharks, Jack Crevalle. They weigh in like 60 pounds. We caught some ling or lemon fish. They're good to eat. And we caught lots of bonita. Bonita's a sports fish. It's a very bloody fish, but it's pretty, hence the name. Bonita means beautiful. And we just killed the fish that day. Just had them strung up like you just wouldn't believe.
I brought a bunch of German officers' caps back from Germany with me during World War II, and I gave them to Elvis and all his friends. Okay, they put on the caps, and they started singing on the boat here, and I took film of that.
Octoon, that's all they ever said in a Memphis twang. Octoon, you know how you do the Heil Hitler, Octoon, that's this stuff. Eddie Bellman had been in the war and brought those hats back as souvenirs. And Eddie, knowing that we should have had hats on to be out in the hot sun that length of time, brought those hats for us to put on to fish to keep the sun out of our faces. So that's why they had those German hats. That stick is a boom on top of the boat. And it looked like a giant microphone. And, I mean, that was just one of the spur of he was just standing up there, and he saw this big thing, and he went behind it and started pretending he was singing into this tall microphone. And it wasn't. It was just the boom on the boat. It was funny. Elvis was funny.
What started as a quiet day on the deserted ocean ended with another assemblage of crazed Elvis fans.
First of all, before we got back into Biloxi, a boat approaches us, and we're on our way in. And when there's a courtesy on the water, when a boat approaches you, it's because they need something, they need help. So our captain slows for this boat to come alongside, and 2 reporters jump on the boat. So this kind of ticked Elvis off pretty good, you know, because, I mean, what an invasion. So in the film footage, you will see that Elvis is sitting up on the bow of the boat. I reach over and adjust his belt because his name is crooked on it. But the reason we were up on the front of the boat is because Elvis had put a friend here on this walkway area, another friend on this walkway area, to block the reporters from getting to him. And I just, you know, because, I mean, they had no business doing that. You know, the man's there on vacation, he needs a little privacy. So anyhow, when we got back in, we agreed to go in and take a picture with all our catch, which is the normal thing to do. And they asked a few questions. Elvis wouldn't get off the boat, wouldn't talk to him. And so they took a picture that's a family picture with me standing there with Elvis's mom and dad and the boat captain and everything. Elvis and I stayed on the boat. His mom and dad, everybody got off. We stayed on the boat, and Mr. Bellman, he told the captain to take the boat down to the factory. And that way we could get away from the crowd. And don't worry, he would bring the cars down there to us. I don't know how he managed to do this, but he did. And it was about a 4-mile ride from where we were down to the shrimp factories. So we pulled the boat in behind the shrimp factories, and we get off the boat. But all the way down, there was lines of cars keeping up with us on Highway 90. Just a whole stream of cars. They knew that that was Elvis's boat out there. And they were going real slow, keeping up with the boat. We made it down to the factory. They didn't know where we were going. The cars did.
And how Elvis slipped off that boat and got in the captain's car, I don't know, because I didn't even see him. And his daughter, he got in, he said, lay down on the floor, and she'll take you to the sun and sand. So everybody there was a line of cars, like a parade, going down the beach. We could see them on the boat. And they didn't know where Elvis disappeared to, because he really could do some disappearing acts.
Anyway, I brought some skeet targets out to Gulf Hills, and I brought my little 28 gauge Remington automatic, which was my favorite gun. And it had a little bit more spread to it than the 410 gauge that I gave Elvis, so I let him shoot my 28 gauge so he'd have a better chance at hitting the targets, you see. And he did pretty good. He missed a few, but he hit a little more than he missed. And he let his friends shoot and all that. We just had a ball. Somebody brought a BB gun up there. And everybody started shooting the BB gun, and people started, even Elvis, he held a cigarette paper in his hand like that to let somebody with the BB gun to shoot the paper out of his hand. He did, that's a fact. And luckily the guy didn't hit his thumb. But anyway, he was kind of daring, like, you know, he had a lot of spunk in him. He was skiing out at Gulf Hills, and he had a shirt on and a life jacket because of that, because he had gotten sunburned. You know, it don't take long to get sunburned out here if you're not accustomed to it. And if you're fair-skinned like he was sort of fair-skinned.
Throughout the remainder of the summer, June and Elvis continued to see each other as much as his hectic schedule would allow. Elvis was so love-struck, he would often just jump into one of his cars and drive to Biloxi as fast as he could. It was during one of these romantic journeys back to Biloxi that Elvis Presley asked June Juanico to be his wife.
We were laying out under the stars over the Hack House, the house that he rented for the summer. Had a big front lawn that was kind of like a sloping hillside with nice clean cut grass and everything. And we had taken a sheet from the bed, or blanket, and laid it out and was laying under the stars. And passionate kisses, and we'll just cut to the question. He said, "I can't get married right away. I promised the Colonel I'd wait at least 3 years." And he said, "Will you wait 3 years for me, June?" And I said, "Sure, I'll wait." You know, I was not in any hurry to get married. So even though I did get married the following year, out of spite, I think.
June could tell that her priority in Elvis's world had declined significantly. And when on Christmas Day in 1956 he didn't call, she knew that their long romance was about to end.
The 2-year-long romance came to an end in March of 1957, the day June met Elvis's train in New Orleans to break the news that she'd had all that she could take, that she had decided to marry someone else.
I told Elvis I was engaged to be married. I just blurted it out. I didn't know how else to tell him, because I had, in my mind and in my heart, I'm going over there, I'm making this trip, and I'm telling Elvis Presley that I have met someone and I'm engaged to be married. And I hope it hurts him, you know. And after seeing him and everything, it was really hard. And I just, he kept saying, "You got to come home with me. I got a surprise for you. Mama can't wait to see you, and you're going to stay on the train with me. And one of the guys can drive the car back to Biloxi." And all this, he was just ranting on, and I said, "I can't go with you. I'm engaged to be married." And he just looked at me, you know, because I hadn't spoke to him other than a telegram in probably 4 months. You don't, if you love somebody, you don't put them on hold that long, do you? I don't think so. And I really and truly had fallen in love with a terrific guy. I mean, the marriage lasted 34 years. It had to be a pretty good marriage, you know. I mean, terrific guy, and I couldn't break his heart. So I had to tell Elvis. I mean, the thought crossed my mind, you know, but I couldn't. Elvis didn't need me. He had worlds, you know, the whole world full of girls of his choice. And this new man in my life needed me. I couldn't break his heart. So that's how we said goodbye.
When June became engaged, we heard about it, and I think Elvis sent her best wishes and congratulations and all, and they remained friends. But you see, Elvis wasn't ready to get involved and get tied down at that time. He was still rocking and rolling, and it was all happening, and the world was his at that time, you know. As I reflect back on the early days of Elvis, and I'm talking now in the 50s, maybe early 60s, nothing will ever equal that in my mind. It was something that money couldn't buy. It was happening so fast and so furious and so quick. Everything was Ed Sullivan, it was Steve Allen, it was Hollywood, it was New York, it was Hawaii, it was Canada, it was Million Records, it was Gold Records, it was movie stars coming in. It was something that I would never trade. I wouldn't trade it for $1 million.
Well, I think he was just a plain American youngster, gentleman, and he liked fun, and he liked good times, and he liked people. And he was just a nice person.
Now, when I look back on it, it's like a different lifetime, because it has been so long ago. But I really feel blessed that I've had, you know, the opportunity. And there's some regret there. But I'm happy and healthy, independently wealthy. What more could I want? If I could change the way that things turned out, I would go back and do things different. I wouldn't have been so quick to leave, or so, you know, without finding out. But I was a little stubborn, a little hard-headed, and I was not going to allow anyone to break my heart. And so it's probably a combination of me, Elvis, and Colonel Parker, you know, that ended our relationship.
Although he lived for only 42 years, Elvis Presley left behind a legacy of showmanship, dedication, and raw talent that would forever change the way the world defined rock and roll music. And although there are thousands of film clips, photos, and recordings of his accomplishments that survive today, the precious few minutes of raw 8mm film shot by a shoe clerk in Biloxi in July of 1956, remain as the only portrait of what the real Elvis was like.